This is a 2024 warning. They are now starting to add it to the beef, the steak, the milk, dairy products. This is going to start showing up in all of these different places because they have now started adding a new chemical to the food supply. All right, starting in 2024, they are now running major tests in multiple states to add this stuff to the food supply, and it could potentially change your gut biome. This could be changing the bacteria inside of your gut and part of your digestive system and part of your health as well. All right, and there's also a connection between your brain and your gut health as well. So all these things are being hit right now, and they are now adding these new chemicals to the feed for cows to eat, for dairy cows and beef cows to eat. All right, they're adding new stuff to their feed, and it is going to start showing up in the food as well. This is your 2024 warning to start growing as much food as possible because the food supply is being contaminated. It's being poisoned with all these different chemicals, and our systems are being overwhelmed. And this newest chemical is there to alter the gut biome of the cows and the dairy cows, the beef cows and dairy cows. And these chemicals could leach through and show up, and you could be eating them as well, and it could be altering your gut biome as well. All right, very serious stuff, and we need to be creating these alternate systems to opt out of it. Right, find local people that sell beef, that sell milk, that produce vegetables, that have eggs. All these things are going to be critical because you want to have people you can trust, because it's no longer trustworthy to buy these corporate foods anymore. There's all these different altercations. They just approved modified food, cell cultivated food for chicken as well. The FDA just approved that as well for multiple companies just a few months ago. I made a whole video on that. The food supply is being tainted and contaminated right now. All right, we got our chickens. We are planting a giant garden right now. We're digging it out right now. I'm out here flipping the ground over. All right, I'm just digging it out with a shovel and flipping it over, flipping the grass over, flipping the turf over, and getting that nice soil to plant in. All right, I'm digging out a giant garden bed right now. We're getting some irrigation set up. All right, planted a bunch of stuff in trays, planted a bunch of lettuce, kale, tomatoes, bunch of different herbs, basil, all this different stuff. We are ready to go. All right, we just got on our homestead just recently, and we are building it up right now because we need to be creating these alternate systems so we can opt out and not be eating this Franken food that is making us potentially sick and giving us health issues as well. All right, so let's dive into this article here. They are now adding this chemical to the cow's food supply in multiple different states right now. All right, they're testing this out in multiple different states, and you need to be aware. You need to have consent, and you need to opt out and be careful if you are buying dairy or steak or beef, roast, anything like that, anything that comes from a cow. You need to be careful if you're in these states as well. So here's the article here. Dairy farmers have been on a sustainability journey long before it was a buzzword. Dairy Farmers of America reveal enteric methane removal pilots. All right, so they are rolling this out in multiple different states, and they just got a giant grant from the federal government to feed this chemical to cows to reduce their methane gases because they're worried about cow farts. All right, that's it. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the clown world that we are living in right now. We are now altering the gut biome of cows, feeding them this chemical, essentially killing off the methane cycle and altering the methane cycle in their gut biome. And you're going to be eating that as well. That's going to leach into the food. And it's specifically, they're really targeting dairy cows right now as well. So right here, the largest U.S. dairy co-op is set to implement Bovaer in a pilot project in the western U.S. while also testing out carbon marketplace schemes. It says the Dairy Farmers of America will receive $22.8 million and a grant from the USDA's Regional Conservation Partnership Program to run the pilot and scale methane reducing practices by implementing the DSM fermentage produced feed additive Bovaer. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the brand name for it, for the stuff that they're using. It says, also known as 3-NOP in the US, Bovaer is yet to receive approval by the FDA, which is widely expected to happen in H1 2024. So the FDA is going to approve this as well, and they already started rolling this out in multiple states. And you can see here it says the DFA is planning to launch the trial at farms in western US, specifically California, Utah, and Idaho. Quote, once the FDA has approved the methane suppressing feed additives, we will make farmers in the select regions aware of the opportunity presented in this pilot project. They're going to give them grants, they're going to give them money, all this stuff. So this is how they incentivize people and get them on board. Asked if the DFA has trialed methane suppressing feed additives before, Klippenstein said different trials with customers partnered were already underway in some farms in Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, Vermont, and New York. He said, quote, these trials to date have been small in scope but impactful. All right, so this is going to be rolling out in 2024. They're saying they're going to get approval from this. They already got a major grant from the FDA for this, so they're rolling this ahead. They're going to do this. They just approved this lab-grown meat that is grown from human cancer cells as well, going all the way back to a woman that had this super cancer that killed her in 2 weeks. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. I made a whole video on that. I'll link that down below if you guys want to watch that after this video. But they are altering and changing our food supply, and what they're doing is altering the gut biome of the cows so they don't produce methane. They're essentially killing off a whole group of gut bacteria inside the cows that produce methane naturally for their digestion, because the way that food is broken down, you have stomach acids, you chew it up, you have saliva, but the end portion of it is your gut bacteria breaking it down. These little microbes are eating the food and breaking it down for you into chemicals that your body can readily absorb, and one of the byproducts is methane. All right, and they're really clamping down on this because they're saying that it's part of this whole scheme, this global scheme that they have implemented all over the world to shut down farming and shut down industry. And methane has its own cycle as well. It's part of the soil, it's part of everything. It's critical. All right, we need methane, and we don't need to be targeting these random chemicals and altering the animals that we're gonna eat. All right, this is playing God, and it does not need to be happening. All right, there is, at some point, we have reached a peak in what we can produce, and we need to go back to more sustainable organic methods. Everyone should be producing some bit of their own food, some part of their diet. Everyone needs to be producing part of it, because we need to go back to this system where our food is local and it's safe and it can be depended on. All right, this is not safe. And not to mention, all the food, most of it comes from overseas, and some of it can even be labeled a product of the US. If it's butchered in the US, they can bring in meat from overseas, and this chemical is actually already approved in places like Europe and also Brazil, which is one of the biggest beef exporters in the world. They also just approved this lab-grown meat in multiple factories all over Europe for it. Europe has already gone full scale on it. The FDA just approved it a few months ago, and we could be getting cuts of lab-grown meat coming over to the US from overseas and Europe as well, right? This is what we are doing with our food supply, and it is being intentionally contaminated so people do not have access to real food. Everything we are eating is fake and is giving us diseases and cancers potentially. All these different foods that we're eating, they are hitting us hard. all right? And they are also affecting our gut biome, which is the key to a lot of these sicknesses and illnesses, and potentially even things like leaky gut syndrome have potentially even been linked to things like autism, right? And autoimmune disorders as well. So this is the key to it all. And this ties into the big pharma medicalized system as well, where they want to make us permanent patients, where everyone's sick. Look at the past 3 years, 4 years going on now. The agenda was not to get healthier. The ideas put out were not to be healthier and to grow your own food and to eat healthier and to exercise and to get outside in the sun and to breathe fresh air and to get in the dirt, dig in the dirt. That was not the idea that was put out. The idea was to sit inside your home under fluorescent lights and eat takeout food all day, which literally makes you sick, right? And sit there and stare at a screen all day. That was the advice I was given. So everything that is being pushed is the opposite, right? It's the opposite of what we actually need and what actual health is. And this is also about shutting down farms as well. They have already shut down thousands of farms in the Netherlands due to these methane emissions, right? And due to these nitrogen emissions as well. They have been measuring even the urine from cows as well. I made a whole video on this last year, probably, when they shut down all these farms in the Netherlands. And they were going around in the ditches of these cattle farms and measuring the rainwater runoff and measuring the ammonium nitrate levels in it and the nitrogen levels from the urine from the cows. So this is tyranny on a whole new level. This is the dystopia that they're implementing, and this gives them the excuse to get away with anything. We can alter anything. We can genetically manipulate anything. We can alter anything's biome, release any type of chemical into the environment as long as it can be justified under this umbrella. And it's not okay. Look at what they're doing to the skies. All right, I've made many videos on this, how they are being poisoned. All right, the skies are being filled with this crap constantly that literally can create acidic rain. Right, they're filling the skies with this crud constantly and blocking out the sun. I've made many videos on this as well, and this stuff's happening constantly. It's a constant attack on our food supply. So even if you try to grow your own food, the rainwater is now potentially more acidic from the sulfur dioxide being released into the air as well. Your crops might not grow as well because they want to block out the sun. All right, they're blocking out the sun with these geoengineering programs, right? This stuff is happening right now. It's all an attack on our food supply. So please hit it up for me down there to help get this video out to more people. People need to know about this. People need to have consent for this. It's called Bovaer, Bovaer. This is the crap that they're adding to our food right now. All right, and they're rolling it out. They've already had tests going on for a while now in Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, Vermont, New York. They're going to roll it out in California, Utah, and Idaho soon as well. And then it'll be FDA approved, and then it will go nationwide. All right, this is going to be in every state, all the milk you drink. And I'm not even sure if this is opted out of the USDA organic. This might still show up in the milk and the beef for USDA organic products as well. We're not sure exactly. I tried to do research on that and figure out if this will be labeled under it, but they probably haven't made the regulations and guidelines for it as well. But even USDA organic might not be safe from this, and there's a lot of backdoors and a lot of loopholes on that for USDA organic. All right, I made a whole report on how one of the biggest corn producers a few years ago that accounted for almost 50% of the USDA organic corn market, they were running a fraud scheme and none of the corn was organic. All right, it was almost 50% of the USD organic corn market a year or two, I think it was in 2021, was fraudulent and organic corn. All right, so that's not even safe either. Your best bet is to grow your own food and to know your own producers. Go to farmers markets and support these people. That's what I did for years and years before I lived in my RV for a few years. All right, so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. I'm telling you guys, get to prepping, get to growing, get your garden going, get your chickens going, get some goats, get some cows if you have enough land. All right, we're thinking about goats for dairy here because we don't have a ton, but we have enough for what we need to do. We're thinking about goats so we can have some dairy, have some cheese and things like that, because even the dairy supply, they are testing this on dairy cows right now. It's not going to be safe. Let me know down below if you have goats. What kind would you recommend for dairy goats specifically? What breed would you recommend? Any tips if you have anything on that? Let me know down below. I really appreciate that. I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.